Good day, everybody. This is John Galante, president of AE Ventures and the host of the Builder Innovator and Housing Transformation webcast series. I am thrilled today to be working with the fine folks at ECI on a presentation that we're calling the State of the Art in Digital New Home Sales, Marketing, and Systems Integration. So let's talk about why we're doing this. First of all, we want to help the sales and marketing leaders and builder companies really understand in this ever-evolving space, the digital strategies, the tactics, the tool sets that are proving to be successful in the market. And then to also dig in along the way to the benefits of real data integration as the buyer moves along the modules in the solution and into the production and customer care phases. So it's a big, wide-ranging topic, critical and always changing. And the folks who are going to help us cover that today are Monica Wheaton, who's the Vice President of Customer Success for Residential Construction for ECI Solutions. And Monica is a 20+ year veteran in the home building industry, much of that time with the legendary consulting firm Builder Partnerships. And she certainly knows this space really well. We also have with us Lauren Loy, who is a regional sales exec. Almost 15 years of real estate and home building experience, and a lot of that time in online sales functions with big national builders, including Toll Brothers, Brookfield, and KB Home. And finally, Greg Durkin, who is a senior regional sales exec with roughly a dozen years of experience in builder software solutions. So that's some great experience from different angles, and they're going to take us on this walk. And the flow will be, first, we're going to take a look at some research and anecdotal information that will help you understand how consumers are shopping and buying homes online, and then some of the strategies and tactics that are responsive to that and make for success. We will next follow an ideal buyer's journey from the curiosity to deeper and deeper engagement, and ultimately to the buying of a home model and lot, and ultimately the personalization and population of that home with a broad and deep assortment of options. And we'll be looking at the data that is captured along the journey and how it gets fed into the downstream functions like purchasing and production for efficient building of homes. And finally, we will, get to the rubber meets the road and talk about a case study with a company, home builder called Mastercraft, where these things are really happening and not just theoretical. So we got a lot of ground to cover. And so without any further ado, I want to turn it over to Monica for a look at the online trends and strategies. Monica?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, John. Thanks for having us today. We really appreciate it. And we're really excited to talk about this topic. It really is near and dear to my heart because there's a lot of different sales and marketing tools out there for new home builders. And I think it's hard to get a grasp of everything that's available and the things that you should be aware of in order to really be effective with your new home sales. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive right into some of these studies and things that are out there right now that are giving us some good insight. So most recently, Greg Bray with Blue Tangerine commissioned an online buyer behavior research study. And if you haven't checked it out yet, we would encourage you to do so. But really, basically what the study said was that home builders want to work with a builder that has a good reputation. Home buyers want to understand the affordability of homes, and they want to be inspired. And some of the really big things that are very important to these buyers are really looking at location, and that's not new to anybody. Everybody always knows location is the most important thing in real estate. But we need to be able to communicate your location to these buyers. And so it's important to provide interactive site maps on your online, on your website and things like that. Buyers are also looking for some clear and concise pricing. Buyers want, this is the biggest investment that they're going to make in their lifetimes, these new homes. And so they need to know what they're spending their money on. And by providing some of that clear and concise pricing on your website, it's very helpful. They also want to have the comfort knowing that the homes that you're building are durable. So these, again, are really important things to highlight when you're selling new homes online.
Hey, Monica, can I just jump in there on the location piece?
Yeah.
I mean, there's ways to show location that are kind of clinical, and then there are ways to show and tell location that may be more compelling in terms of identifying nearby institutions and retail establishments, so people feel like they're part of a community. Is that part of the equation here? It's not just
absolutely.
like where it is on a map, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about where it is on a map that you're going to live. You need to understand what's around you, how that interacts with your life as far as the buyer is concerned. How is that going to impact their life?
And for new homes, there's a predisposition to think they're going to be in the hinterlands without all this other community infrastructure. So maybe even special obligation on communities that are being built to really communicate the milieu, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing is that there's now those tools online that can allow you to do that for the buyer, where they can actually go to a site map on your website and take a look not only about where is their house going to be within a community, but what's around it. And they can hone in on many different things, like where's my church? Where are my kids going to go to school? Where's the nearest grocery store? Is there a hospital within 5 miles of my community? Those kinds of things. And so that's become really important for buyers to really understand.
Yeah, I think especially as we also discussed the fact that buyers are now more focused on lifestyle that comes with the home that they're purchasing, right? The box that they're going to live in is one piece of the equation. But to Monica's point, they need to know, how far am I from an airport if I travel for work? If I work from home, where's the nearest coffee shop? If I got young kids, do I have daycares nearby? What kind of hobbies do I have? Is it boating? Is it golf? Are there courses nearby? All of those additional insights are the things that drive them to these neighborhoods and really get them emotionally invested in a particular area or community, which just benefits the builder.
Cool. Let's keep going.
Yeah, sounds great. So this slide really just talks about what buyers are doing online. So we know what buyers are sort of looking for, but what are they doing when they get online, and how are they finding your homes in your communities? And this study was really interesting because your website is very, very important, and you need to have a good website where potential buyers can find what they need. But really, how are they getting there? It's through these home buying websites like the Zillows, the Trulia, the Realtor. As you look at this chart, 67% of new buyers are starting there and then going deeper into your website and things like that. So the other thing, again, to just reinforce what we said on our last slide, buyers want to know if they can afford this new home. A lot of buyers have been priced out of the market with the recent increases in interest rates. So homes that they may have been able to afford before the interest rate increase, they may not be able to afford now. So that has become a big question for buyers in the industry or in the market right now. So the more you can kind of emphasize with the buyers what the price of your homes are, it's kind of better that way.
And Monica, you think the listing services, that's kind of a starting point across all generational cohorts? Like it is for me, but I don't know whether some of these young whippersnappers just start with search and like whatever comes up on a search engine. To me, I like having a directory to kind of comb through, but is there any erosion of that
I honestly don't think that it is a generational thing. I think a lot of people, when they're looking for a new home, they do like to visit the Zillows. They do like to dream about what kind of home they can afford. And so these things are really front and center for them. And so
that gives you apples to apples, and really it's about a honing process. So people are drawn to those listing sites. Yeah,
exactly. So, and what was interesting for me too about this research is as you go down the list, you'll see that working with a real estate agent is actually only 49%. So most of these buyers are actually looking online before they're really even working with the real estate agent. And some of them, you'll come to find as we dive deeper into this, don't even contact a real estate agent or really don't need an agent anymore in order to buy a new home based on the tools that are now available for you, and that you can leverage. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. I don't need to necessarily go through every single one of these. And this is actually summarizing Zillow's research study. So again, another survey or study that if you haven't picked it up yet, we actually really highly encourage you to do so because they've got some excellent insights here. So just to kind of highlight some of them, 35% of the respondents intended from the start of their search to buy a home that they could customize during construction. So that's a surge of 10 percentage points. What that really means is more people are buying new homes than used homes. And that's really good for us as new home builders. And so we can really capitalize on that market. 85% of respondents were more likely to view a home if the online information included a floor plan. And again, we've got a lot of great tools out there now where you can actually demonstrate a floor plan, but you can actually also make it interactive. And we'll probably show you some of that in this presentation as well. So you'll see that 73% said that if they have a dynamic floor plan with photos, it really helps them determine if it's a good fit or not.
Monica, when I was talking to Kadra Evans from Zillow at last year's Transformation Summit, she said the number one way people take builders or home communities off the list is if they don't see a floor plan that works for them.
Absolutely.
This is one of the major activities is honing, is getting rid of options. And so like, it really makes it imperative to have the floor plans there and the interactive ones. I'm sorry. Life intrudes as always. The interactive ones that would allow you to show a variety of floor plans for a specific model of home, the better job we can do with that, the more we're going to stay in consideration, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that is reinforced by that next bullet point that if people would have seen on your website your floor plans, 54% said they wouldn't have wasted time on the properties. They would have skipped them. And that's, bad because you're not getting that traffic online, but it's actually very good because you're not wasting your salesperson's time working with people who are not going to buy your house anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a really neat statistic. The other one that I really liked was that 43% of the people that responded to this said they would make an offer on buying a home without even touring it in person. So that's pretty phenomenal. And that's increased quite a bit over the last years. And I think COVID has had a great impact on that number. Saying all this, and this is the reason I put this in red, saying all this is digital tools are not replacing in-person activities. They should be really considered as a complement to them. And so the more you can make your digital experiences sort of mirror or replicate your, or continuous, let me say that, with your in-person experiences, the better off you will be overall, because people are buying digitally, they're buying in person, and then they're crossing and doing both. And you'll see some of that as we go through the presentation too. So any other questions, or shall we?
Well, I'm just going to say that I think what happens with digital and self-serve information versus the in-person component is the in-person component needs to change, right? It needs to be additive. If you're replicating and repeating information that somebody's already gotten digitally and not adding to it or giving a different dimension, then you're not making the progress. So I think that's the one thing to consider in terms of the people digital interface piece on this.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll mention too, and we'll get into this with Lasso CRM in particular, but having these interactive plans, not only is that extremely beneficial, as you can see here, but also capturing that, like what plans are gaining the most interest, clicks, which, and capturing that demographic kind of qualifying data and using that for future planning and for what floor plans are most successful. So we can capture that data.
For sure.
Cool. This next slide again, and this is just reinforcing a lot of the things we've already said, but the whole goal of these tools is to really help your prospects fall in love with their new homes. As salespeople, I believe many of you know and realize that it's really the emotions. If you can stir the emotions of these people in the house, that's going to really drive their decisions. And so we want to get these emotions stirred up as quickly and as much as possible, even before they come into the sales office. So you want to really help prospects imagine a home that's going to represent who they are, get buyers emotionally connected with their new homes online, and then provide unique interactive home personalization opportunities. And so as we go through this presentation, we're going to talk about customizable floor plans, virtual tours, configurators, interactive site maps. We talked a little bit about Google Map integrations, and we'll show you a little bit more about that. Mortgage calculators are really great as well to help buyers understand the value or what they're doing to their home as they're making changes with it. And then digital design centers. So with all these tools, and this is one of my big soapboxes, with all these tools, there's all these really cool things out there that you can put in front of buyers. But if you're not capturing these leads or capturing the activity of these buyers online, then you're really losing out on a great opportunity. And so we'll also tie in the importance of the CRM in making sure that you're not only providing these experiences, but getting the value out of them at the same time. And the last point I want to make before we can sort of move on from this topic is the longer that a potential buyer spends on your website, the more likely that they are going to be to purchase a home. So it is very valuable to have these kinds of experiences available for them.
I can't resist making a little editorial comment here.
Yeah.
Which is my experience on the consumer electronics side of things. When we do home theater, one of the things that has been studied and proven is that 80% of the emotion of a movie actually comes out of the soundtrack. I just saw this story about John Williams and like taking the Indiana Jones Raider of the Lost Ark episodes and not playing the music behind them is like, what's going on? And then you know how to feel about it with the soundtrack. And I do think that everything you got up here, Monica, is visual, but we need to start working with sound if we want people to love and have emotions involved with it. So it's just
Yeah, I agree with you. Anyways, that's again, even like with smell, like when people walk into your sales center, if you have the smell of fresh baked cookies, or you can do something to kind of remind them of that homey feel, that also helps quite a bit. So definitely agree with you there on the sound and even the smell, any kind of senses. So cool. I think that's probably the all I really wanted to talk about as far as the trends were concerned.
okay.
Oh, no, well, this actually, do you mind if I cover this a little bit as well?
I don't mind.
Right before we jump into talking a little bit about ECI, what this slide really represents is that ECI, we have many different products. And we have actually 6 in the home building space. And one of them is Lasso CRM. Another one is our InSearch online design and sales center. LotView is our interactive site maps. Mark Systems is our operating system. So all these different products that we've got under our umbrella. And the really cool thing is that they all interact together and they're integrated. And even the cooler thing that we're showing on this slide is that we want to make sure, like I was saying on the last slide, you want to make sure you're capturing all the activity and all the leads that you can within this system so that you can follow up with them and do things. And so what this slide really represents is that we do have connections and can integrate and capture activity and leads from all of these different independent companies within our space or products within our space.
That's why we call it Lasso. 'Cause
Yes,
it captures-
exactly. We got to get all your
Great
leads in.
segue.
All right, so let's move on to the home buying journey, and this is your turf, Lauren. So take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can tab over, Monica. Well, as Monica just talked about, like there's just such an importance of this integration and really, getting tools in place so that you can actually focus on building homes, and having this like fully integrated ecosystem is really what we offer here. So I'll specifically talk about Lasso. And from here, if you want to tab over, Monica. So we'll talk today. Lasso is really considered the #1 CRM for the home building space. We have three major components that we'll look at today, from lead nurturing, really from initial sign up on really any site, website, Zillow, BDX, and how we can automate those leads in, follow up with leads, lead nurturing. There's also a marketing component and reporting. So those three major components, from pre-sale all the way till after they close on a home, are really key milestones of the buyer journey that we'll look at today. And we've got multiple builders using Lasso. I think we're over 500 at this point, and one of our clients, Dream Finders, and some others here listed below, Century Communities as well. So yeah, and our niche is really small to medium, but we can really service anyone at this point that needs a CRM. So
how do you define small to medium? Because I see small, like less than 5 communities. That could be a lot of houses, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, anywhere from 30 homes a year to 1,000 homes a year. I mean, we can really service anywhere in between and more. So yeah. All right. So really where I wanted to start today is just giving you a look into the interface of Lasso. One of the things that we hear consistently is Lasso is easy to use. It's very simple. I have personally used it in the online sales role, selling homes, managing a sales team, launching Lasso, and that's why I'm in this seat today, because I'm a big advocate for this tool. And so really what we're looking at here, just a quick lay of the land, when a lead signs up, let's say on your website, that lead can automate right into Lasso. In the top left corner, I'm pretending to be the prospect today. So it's actually pulling in my contact information. And again, this came from the contact form that they filled out for more information. It's actually finding my photo from my Gmail. So that's actually quite helpful, not only to humanize, but when that lead does walk in the door, there's some familiarity there. So we can connect co-buyers and realtors and create all those relationships. And then in the top right corner where you see rating, think of that as the milestone of the buyer journey, really from pre-sale until after they close on the home, and how each stage can have a different workflow. So we'll briefly look at that. But when a new lead signs up, you can see there in the center, there's some activities. As soon as someone inquires about your community, your homes, that'll direct right to your sales agent. And then there's an open task for them to call, email right away. One thing to think about is that if, say, you get 5 people that sign up on a Monday for more information, and your sales agents is not able to reach any of them. Say we leave voicemails for all of them and we don't get any responses. How are we going to remember Friday to check back in with the folks that sign back up on Monday, right? We see that sometimes it takes 6 touch points before we even get a response. And we have to try different ways. Nowadays, texting is the way that we communicate. So we have to try different ways to reach for outreach. And then, so once that day 1 task is completed, the nice thing about Lasso is that the tasks are automated. You're not having to set a manual task, which takes time to do. So you can just rely on the system to remind you 24 hours later, oh yeah, I didn't reach Lauren yesterday, let me try again. And there is a workflow that we recommend to really help you increase your lead conversions. Okay, so once we actually get a response from the prospect, we can actually connect in your email. So if you're using Outlook or Gmail, once there is correspondence taking place, it'll show up in the history below. And over in the left, you can see that you can make notes on the prospect. And we also have fields to capture demographic information, qualifying data. And so if you want to tab to the next slide, Monica, at this point,
Lauren, are those is the email history just automatically captured by the system? Do you have those sorts? Okay.
Yep, we can
Don't
help
have to
set that
track
up and
that. It's self-tracking.
you got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great benefit. You don't have to sync it or copy paste. It's just
Yeah.
gonna keep a nice log automatically for you there.
Gotcha.
So let's think. Okay, so we get a response from the prospect. Well, now what? So we want to be tracking your lead to appointment conversion rate. Typically, you want to be around 30% from lead to appointment. So the nice thing with Lasso is you can actually schedule your appointments in Lasso. So it will add the appointment to everyone's calendar. It'll actually tee up an automated text message reminder as well. So then after the appointment takes place, or it doesn't, right? We can track the status. Did they come in? Did they cancel? Did they no show? So let's say this appointment did complete. You can see there the rating changed. In the top right corner, you can rate them as an A, ready, willing, able, gonna write in 30 days. Maybe they're more of a B. They're ready, willing, but they're not able. They have a contingency on their home. So now we're thinking post-appointment workflow, right? So you meet with 5 people on Monday. How are we going to remember to check in with on Friday with the people we met with Monday? Lasso is going to keep everyone organized and to also provide visibility into your pipeline and your prospects. One other thing I want to mention here is we're also tracking the source. Where did they come from? And I'll get to that a little bit more in the reporting dashboards, but it's something to note that, like, you know, as you can see here below, it's showing secondary sources Zillow. So we can see, oh, this lead came in from Zillow and they went to an appointment and they're an A lead. So this all really valuable information to have insight.
Hey, Lauren, so how do you work with your strategic customers on these workflows? I would call them cadences and
Sure, yes.
inside sales lingo.
Uh-huh.
I mean, how do you design winning cadence? Because everyone kind of has a different approach to this,
Sure.
right? And different
Well-
ratings, and some people want to put percentages on it and some don't. And
Absolutely.
like, how do you have a good process for collaborating with the client to put the right labels and
Yeah.
workflows in place?
No, that's a great question. So all of this is customizable. This is what we're going through today, is just kind of what happens, you know, through the buyer journey, but you can absolutely customize each stage, call it what you want. You know, during implementation of Lasso, we actually have our senior consultant, Heidi Schroeder, and she can work one-on-one with our builders to help really create this flow and customize it and really help just fine tune these steps in the process and really what works specifically.
How long does that take? I mean, is it like a 2-hour brainstorming issues resolution sort of meeting, or I mean, and you just get people to carve out that time because salespeople are busy selling, and then it's like, well, we need your input on this if it's going to work for you, right?
Yeah, and we're pretty flexible on that. I mean, with Lasso, we provide a 2-hour sales training that's scheduled ahead of time. It's live, it's recorded. We do a 2-hour admin training that, you know, that all comes as part of this to make sure you're trained and really going to optimize the tool and graduated well. And then on top of that, you know, with Heidi, it's about 4 hours, and that can be broken down. I know we're all really busy. But to schedule that time with her one-on-one to really define these processes.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, you know, just to kind of go through high level of the buyer journey, again, this is customizable. You can rate what you want. But the next step would be, let's say that now Lauren's ready to sign a contract. So at this point, we have an open API. So we could any ERP that wants to connect with us, we can, and you can push that lead over to your contract, generate the contract with Mark Systems, which is an ECI tool. It's a 2-way integration, so it talks right back to Lasso and automatically updates the status to purchaser to kind of streamline this process automatically. But at this point, we highly recommend extending this journey along. So the rating, as you can see, is changed to purchaser. So let's think post-contract workflow. Well, what communications need to go out? not only from sales, and each of those tasks that I showed y'all can have a template associated. So this is pre-populated template that you can edit them, but it's just going to help keep your brand consistent and also provide just as it's a time saver. And the other thing to mention, as I change these ratings, it can also trigger a marketing drip campaign. So this task that you see here, email under contract, that could actually be an automated email that's scheduled as soon as I change the rating to purchaser to automatically go out 24 hours later saying, welcome, here's what to expect now that you're under contract with us. So there's some really cool things you can do to really elevate the buyer journey. So then the final step would be that they close on the home. We have some of our builders that at this point tag in warranty. So you can really take this all the way through. So as you can see, I expanded some of the upcoming activities. These are just examples that we've created, but you know, warranty, different stages of warranty. As I mentioned, with those automated emails that can go out, there could even be a link to a survey, and those survey results can be automatically pulled into Lasso, which is really valuable information at each stage, how their experience has been. And then, you know, and also just automatically sending out a happy anniversary email once a year. So there's some really cool things you can do. So that's the sales journey. Now we're at the marketing component. So you don't need any sort of tools like MailChimp or Constant Contact anymore. We have it all in Lasso, directly correlated with your leads and your database. So I wanted to show you, I mean, if you have your own existing templates, you can use those, you can create your own, but we do have a slew of industry example templates in here. So I want to roll with an example. Let's say that you do a promotion. So you would come in here, choose the template, create your email. Okay. And Mark, if you want to tab over now to the next slide, you don't want that promotional email to go out to the people that just signed a contract, right? They didn't get this promotion. So it could cause a little bit of, you know, irritation. So what's really nice about Lasso is we have these custom lists. So you can sit and think, who do I want this message to go to, and get really specific. So as you can see, I've X'd out purchasers, those that are under contract. And then from there, you can hit go, and it filters your whole database in a click of a button, drop in the email that you've just created, your promotional email, and hit send. You can schedule them out as well. And, you know, outside of that example, you can even see up at the top, rating, A, B. You know, I remember when I was selling, and my manager would come in and say like, hey, who do you got this week? You know, how can I help you get them over the line? Any objections? You know, how, you know, and I was individually trying to find their email and sending them emails. Right now, you could literally choose all of your A and B leads and send them an email, right? Let's think of the opposite. Let's think about purchasers for a moment. Let's say that there is a delay. We didn't have any of that happen at all. A delay on the homes. Okay. And so let's say we want to be proactive with communication. So rather than individually having to email all of your purchasers, let's go in a Lasso, select purchaser, and hit go. And now we can communicate in a mass way. So there's some really cool things you can do in here and get really creative.
Mhm.
All right, y'all, final component, reporting. We have some newer dashboards that are really fun. I have a couple examples for you. We have a marketing dashboard here. So you can create different views for what it is your role is in the company and what you need to be monitoring. So with marketing, well, I would probably want to see my ROI. If I'm spending a bunch of money on Zillow, how many of those leads actually went to sales, so I can track my marketing ROI. Well, here you go. This is automatically, the Zillow leads automatically flowing in to Lasso. We're changing the rating to purchaser as soon as they sign a contract. With Mark Systems, it's automated. Now we can see real time my conversions and my spend and what's working and what's not working. Okay, the next slide over is a sales tab. And remember, I kind of gave that example of manager coming in, being like, Lauren, who you got this week? So I was looking at my sticky notes of like, well, Mr. Jones is a good prospect. Now it's all here. Okay. It's in the dashboard. I can pull this up. My manager has visibility into my pipeline as well. And I can see up here in the top first box in the top left corner, I've got my B leads, my leads that have an N rating, meaning I need to call all those people, and try to move them along. So it'll you can click into it as well, and then it'll bring up everyone's names. Okay. And another, if you want to tab over one more, the traffic report here. I mean, gosh, these are some really major metrics we want to look at. Total leads. And again, we can track walk-in, phone calls, online. We can actually automate all three, right? Even your digital iPad at the model, you could use a tool like CallRail, for example, and automate your phone calls in. So everything's automated. We can track all traffic to appointment to sale, right? And we can drill in deeper in these dashboards by community, by agent. And not only is this going to help give visibility, but this is also a great way to manage your team. How can I help? What's really happening here? We can also, there's a great dashboard, reason for lost sale. Why did we lose people, right? So really cool dashboards. We also have all sorts of other standardized reporting, Excel, that can even automatically flow into your inbox on Sunday night. So Monday morning, you come in, your report's right there. So
Hey, Lauren, quick question for you. So much capability.
yes.
And it's only as good as it gets used, right? So
Sure.
like, what would you say the characteristics are of your clients that are getting the ultimate utility out of this tool?
Yeah, no, that's such a great point. I mean, the first thing I want to say is like, because we can automate all of this information, it's there for you. So it's in setting all of this up, like whether we're not really relying so much anymore on manual entry, like it's in here, the data's there. So one thing that I did when I was managing the team is we just put a 30-minute time block on the calendar every day, go in, complete your lasso tasks, and then say on the weekly sales meeting, that we pull up lasso and actually look at these dashboards together as a team. And just get used to logging in every day, looking at this information, and then it becomes part of it to run your business.
So you understand the utility of it, and then you drive yourself to do the compliance stuff that like like the lifting the weights, to play in the NFL. It's not a thriller. But when you ultimately understand that that's how you win the Super Bowl, you do lift the weights, and it's the same thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I'll tell you, like we're seeing, you see the results, like, if you follow up on day 3 and you get a hold of that lead, and then they come in and then they buy a home, without that, the lead could have fallen through the cracks. So if it's me, I'm using lasso, I'm moving forward. It got me a sale, but you gotta try it, and it's there for you, and it's going to help you. So
well, I think the overarching premise is to make it easy for sales, right? And this is how Lauren kicked off the presentation, and she's right. It's the easier you make it for sales to not have to do the mundane parts of their job of manually entering and manually putting in a lead source and manually putting in a task and manually putting in notes, right? If I can set up a system where my lead is going to flow in automatically from Zillow and notify the rep, so I don't need to rely on them to do that. It's going to automatically put in the lead source, so I don't need to rely on the salesperson to do that. It's going to automatically schedule my tasks, so I don't need to rely on a salesperson to do that, right? So the more simplistic and the more straightforward we make it for sales, we enable them to focus on the more skilled parts of the job, making those phone calls and building those interactions and actually selling, as opposed to the more administrative parts of the job. And so then by getting those basics into the system automatically, the rest of the team, the marketing, the management, ownership, they're the ones that are going to use these more advanced features like tracking the dashboards and seeing the analytics and getting the reporting. But the dashboards and analytics are only as good as the data that gets entered into the system. So the more we can automate, the more we can integrate with third parties, the more reliable that data is, and the greater benefit it is to every level of the organization.
Yeah, and
Well-
one last thing I want to quickly mention is we do have a mobile app as well.
Mhm.
So sales can go in and actually use the mobile app. I know that it's busy. There's leads coming in, calls coming in, walking in. You can do it all from your phone, and that's another benefit too. Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I wanted to just highlight that I really like about Lasso is if we all went through the craziness of COVID where our salespeople were turning people away because we had too much sales, and then everything just stopped, everything dropped, and nobody was coming by anymore. And the cool thing about Lasso is instead of having to pull those sticky notes to try to find your buyers, you just go in the system, and then you still have a whole list of people that you can start calling and prospecting to try to get them back in this in the
Yeah.
sales office.
Such a good point. Yeah.
And I
And
think your
consistent-
user interface is nice and clean, and we've all experienced Salesforce horrors where
Yeah.
there's 17 million buttons that
Yeah.
you will never use on the
Right.
screen every time. So it's really is clean and focused. So it's good.
Yeah, and and the other thing too with that, I mean, there are a lot of other CRMs out there, but we specialize in this industry. So if you during setup, we know what a BBAC is, like we know how to talk the same lingo, and like we partner with industry experts. We know how to help you get set up for success.
Yeah,
So yeah,
cool. So are we
Okay.
moving to our next section?
we
Yeah,
are. Thank you.
So thank you, Greg. So let's get inside some of these data integrations and the benefits, but also a little bit of the how-to so that we understand what's a real integration and what's a theoretical integration, and kind of help the builders out there understand the difference as they assess tools.
Yeah, certainly. And Monica, you can push on to the next slide. Kind of the purpose of this point of the demonstration. So far, we focused our energy and our attitude on applications like Lasso, where the overarching premise and the drive is how to convert those leads. We get the leads from third-party tools, we get them into a database, we nurture them, we follow up, we market, right? That's one part of it. Another way to drive sales, other than converting a higher percentage of leads, is to use interactive platforms to get more leads. And not only get more leads, but get more qualified leads, have them be further down the buying process when they come in the front door, right? And so for starters, we've got an application called LotView, where the overarching premise of LotView, it's for both builders and land developers alike. It comes with a marketing and an operations component. But on the macro, the goal is to enable customers, as we alluded to at the beginning, to come to your website, to sort availability in real time, to see which floor plans fit where, to get a view of the surrounding area. Hey, what does my life look like in this community, in this area? How far am I from an airport? Are there parks nearby? What's the local school district look like? Right? And so we enable prospects to get a look, a feel, a touch of the community first, and then drill into the specifics, kind of along the lines of, we were talking before about visibility and transparency. That's just, anything that you're buying current day, the price of before you're making these decisions, right? You know if it's available before you hit go, right? And so the more we put this in, as home buyer builders, put this in front of their customers' face and allow them to interact, to play with, engage, the more we're seeing that drive more leads in the front door, those leads be more qualified, which is then going to lead to a higher conversion rate. So kind of to your point, tools like LotView, and we'll also talk about our application InSearch, which takes just a kind of a few steps further. They can be used as standalone applications where everything's entered into the backend database of those respective tools. But one of our perks of the ECI ecosystem, as we'll allude to throughout this presentation, is it can also be leveraged in a completely integrated experience. Meaning, instead of needing to update this within a tool like LotView of, hey, this lot was sold, or hey, this lot costs X amount of dollars, hey, this floor plan fits on this lot. you can actually leverage a tool like this connected to an ERP, right? And so in our case, this tool is connected with Mark Systems. So none of that information that I referenced has any manual entry, right? It's all done and it's all driven from the data that exists within the project management tool, right? And so we talked before about making life a little bit easier on the sales and marketing folks and not putting too much on their shoulders. You know, they love applications like this because they're not really needing to shoulder the responsibility of, you know, entering all of this information, right? This is getting just entered into the project management software on the background, in the background, displaying things like lot availability, which floor plans fit where, the pricing of a particular lot or floor plan, et cetera. And so as I'm selling lots, as they're coming off, in real time, that's updating my website. As prices change, in real time, that's updating my website. So it really, they're getting all the benefits without needing to do that much of the lifting, right? Purchasing and operations are just operating in the manner in which they normally do, adjusting prices, adjusting materials as things change. And that information is projecting in real time on that buyer's website so that when prospects come to engage, come to play with, come to visualize and see, they're getting live information that's correct at all times. So Monica, I'll push on to the next one. We highlighted a little bit before our application called Lot View, which is more driven at the front end of the process, kind of that interactive sitemap feel for if you're looking to, you know, see which floor plan fits where, if you're looking to check lot availability. A tool like InSearch actually enables you to take it a few steps further than that. Not only am I filtering and sorting by availability and what floor plan fits where, but I can actually take the buyer even further down the process where they can choose a floor plan, they can choose a lot, they can choose an elevation, they can even start choosing options within my option set, right? And so what this does is, again, kind of under the guise of getting this buyer further down the process before leads come in, and Monica, I'll have you push over to the next screen. The premise is prospect can come to my website and they get that Amazon, that Tesla experience. You know, it's funny, it was actually a line at your summit last year that stuck with me ever since. And someone dropped the line, they were on stage and they said, you know, what we need to realize is the customer's ugly is better than you're beautiful. And that stuck with me ever since, because that's so true, right? It's, you know, we've got people that are working on our teams that are professionals, right? But at the end of the day, you know, to Monica's point, this is the biggest investment this person's going to make, right? And so the more that you can put these tools in front of them, the more you can enable them to engage, to interact, to play with, and to personalize within your option set, right? The more they're starting to add options that you may not even have presented. You know, often when I'm talking to people, whether it's on the sales side or whether it's on the design center side, I will jokingly ask, hey, did you have a chance to run through every option you have? And they kind of chuckle at me like, no, that's impossible. But the reality is you can have them do that if you support this with an interactive online experience. Because customers want to go through this. They want to see all of the options that you offer. They want to see availability. They want to see what they can put in each room, right? But I don't have 15 hours to sit down with them in a design center to do this.
Right.
And so the premise is you enable them to start playing with and interacting online, and they're going to start upselling themselves.
So Greg, what's your sense, and it could be from, you know, actual customer histories with ECI, but this idea of putting the design center functionality in front of the initial sale is relatively recent, right? That we've started to not have that stuff behind the already, you know, for the purchased group already.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, is that something that's just started to happen in the last 5 years? And what kind of momentum do you see behind it? And who's doing a good job of it? What are some of the stumbling blocks that people overcome on that? Or why are they freaked out about doing it in the first place?
Yeah.
Because this gets kind of a new angle. I think it's essential. I think it makes the case that the new home can be personalized
Yes.
interactively and kinetically to the shopper, but we haven't been there for a long, we haven't been there forever. We just kind of arrived there.
Well, and Monica, I'll push you to the next slide, but
Okay.
then I'll go ahead and I'll answer this question in a
Yeah.
couple of different formats. Right. For those that are listening, to kind of draw the line of delineation, right? There are online design center applications like ourselves that can be used for the design center selections piece itself, right? Where I sell someone a home, immediately I send that customer a, hey, log in, start making selections. They start going through within that first handful of days, and they go room by room by room, and they start making these selections. Then they show up to their design center meeting a week later, having already upsold themselves $30,000-$40,000 worth in options. And then from there, they're meeting with the design center specialist that's saying, hey, most people that go with the upgraded granite countertops also go with the upgraded appliance package, also go with the upgraded cabinets, also go with this upgraded backsplash, right? And so it's essentially you're giving them, one, you're enabling them to sell themselves up front. So they're starting at a higher baseline. But then two, they're still running into your professional on the design center side that's making those professional recommendations. And at this point, hasn't used any of their leverage because the customer sold themselves on the front end. So that's one piece of it, is the actual physical selections that can be made in an online design center. And with a tool like Mark Systems, you can actually take those selections and push them back. Step two, which I believe you're referencing, and to your point, is very new. I feel like, as far as the practicality of actually using it in that space, is customers are now saying, well, hey, look, if I'm going to build up this interactive online design center to be used on the back end for selections, why don't I take that same design center and put it on the front end and use it as a sales tool? Is that kind of where you're going with that, John?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's, to your point, I think it's still fairly fresh. It's fairly new. I mean, the challenges of using an actual design center on the design side versus using it on the sales side is sometimes when it's used on the sales side, people aren't interacting with real pricing, right? Because that can be toggle on or toggle off. And when you're using on the sales side, it can be used as more of a marketing play, right?
Yeah.
When it's used on the design center side, some of the hesitation is, look, these are, the way that I always explain it is, for years and years and years, we've been used to having our ERP be an internal tool, right? The guts, the brains of our organization was designed to be used internally by purchasing and operations, et cetera, right? And when you create an online design center, you're taking that internal piece and you're making it customer facing, right? And so there's recommendations, there's guidance, there's changes that we advise customers on, right? The customer makes selections differently than an internal staff, right? And so just lining things up instead of by category, lining them up by room, right? Because that's how the customer brains works. And so we have all kinds of recommendations and guidance on how to do that for the physical, actual online design center.
And so they might not want to put the pricing transparency in on the sales functionality. However, they probably would do better if they did show the price. Because like when you buy a car, you work through a car configurator online. It's not like they don't price it for you.
And you're seeing it right here on the screen. Yeah. I mean, we are strong believers in transparency, right? That's without discretion. That's where the industry is going, because that's where every industry has gone. Right. And the expectation is starting to come there from the home buyer saying, look, I just talked to these guys down the street. I personalized, I priced out, I got an entire home to my wants and my needs. And then you're telling me pick up the phone and call for pricing. I got to come and visit during work hours. Yes, I may do that, but even if I am going to do that, I'm so much further down the process with the
Right.
other person, right?
Well,
Not to mention the fact that we've got people moving more than ever, and there's more people that are, becoming transplants in new cities. By enabling and putting this stuff all online, you open up your total addressable market to anyone with internet access,
Yeah.
right? And to Monica's points up front, people are becoming more comfortable with seeing and buying and purchasing homes remotely that they haven't seen in person, that they haven't toured before. And it's because of all of the personalization and visualization tools that exist current day that didn't exist in the past.
right.
Monica,
And
you wanted to say something?
I was
or
just
we
going to go back to the
move
fact that
on?
90% of decisions are made on an emotional basis. And so if
Yeah.
you're giving these tools to your buyers and letting them make these selections, and then the longer again that they spend on your website, the more engaged they are, the more likely they're going to come and purchase one of your homes.
Yeah.
I mean, how long is it going to take them to build their own home and choose their selections?
Yeah.
And the other cool thing about and I think another reason why builders are not using the design centers is the whole issue of the data and keeping the data up to date and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Having the integration with your ERP, that now becomes almost a non-issue because the
Correct.
purchasing
Yeah.
people in the back office has to keep the product list up to date.
Yeah.
And so it's all it's really cool. It's just all integrated and it works really
Yeah.
well.
All right, so where are we on our flow now?
So now we're going to here, Greg, I think it's still you.
Yep. So what we were just highlighting, and we danced across a couple different topic matters there. InSearch as a whole kind of has 3 different applications tied up into one. On the front end, we've got that interactive sales piece where the premise is enable a customer to have that visibility, get that Amazon Tesla experience, come to my website, see which lots are available, see which floor plans fit where, grab a lot, grab a floor plan, grab some options, price it out, right? Not only is that a better customer experience for the sales or for the home buyer, but then if you look at it through the lens of a salesperson, a salesperson's used to getting a lead with a name, email, phone number. You start giving that sales rep name, email, phone number, lot, price point, floor plan, elevation, options, right? Not only does that lead to increased option sales, but it leads to higher conversion rates because they've got all this intel on the customer up front before they're making that initial call.
Right.
So that's part 1. Part 2, which we were just talking about, was the design center piece, right? It's enabling a customer to go through and to make selections on the back end, to immediately, get a link to the design center, start adding their selections, price it out before their design center meeting, do their homework there. And again, kind of under the guise of this is going to lead to an increase in option sales, a better customer experience, and it's going to drive down the time physically in the design center. The third piece, and this is what Monica is showing right now, is the visualization piece, right? So if I look at it through the lens of, a typical design center or online design center, right? It's normally I'm seeing different pieces and parts. Well, here's a little splotch of this paint and this flooring and this countertop, and let me try to figure out how this would all look together, right? And so that's where these configurators or visualization tools come into play. The
Mhm.
premise here, and again, to your point earlier, John, that we referenced on the design center, this can be used in the design center, or it can be used as a front end sales tool, right?
Yeah.
I want a prospect to come to my website and to look at this room or look at this kitchen, look at this living room and change the color of the floor, change the cabinets, change the countertop, right? They personalize it to their specific wants, their needs. They save that personalized design, creates a custom brochure. And again, that brochure goes to the customer and also goes to the sales team, creates a new lead. That lead can go directly into Lasso, and then I can work it, nurture it, follow up with it on that side. And so every kind of segment of that home buyer journey, from when this lead's coming in from the website, we're nurturing them, we're following up, and we're giving them access to these interactive tools that get them further engaged, further down the process, all the while continuing to keep sales up to date and engaged with who the prospect is, where their interests lie, and give you insight that's going to help you push this person over the fence.
Gotcha.
This is just a quick look at the design center itself. I know we've talked about this a few times, but overarching premise is, you send them a personalized link to their particular home, their particular floor plan, their lot, right? And the customer can go room by room by room and make their selections. And you'll see as they make a selection, it gets marked off as a green check mark, just to try to drive them to make as many of these selections up front as possible. So they come to that design center meeting already having a pretty full list of selections that they've made, where then I can take it. And if I want to just talk to someone this morning that was like, what I think we're going to do is I think we're going to take their selections they're making here. We're going to put it into the configurator. So when they come in person, I can just show them the visualization in our configurator of what they've selected, which I thought was a great idea, is kind of taking the intel you're getting and then you creating that virtual experience for them. Unless you want to let them do it online at home as well.
Cool.
And I really love how this is set up by room, because, us builders don't necessarily buy that way or think of things that way. What do you want the color of your house to be? But you think of things differently as a buyer. Bedroom 2 is going to look different than bedroom 1. Our extra bathroom is going to look different than our master bathroom.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool tool.
Cool. Get ready to sell the furniture too.
I know, wouldn't that be
telling you,
awesome?
It's
Yeah.
happening.
Yes, this is the other cool thing before, and Greg, maybe I'll talk to this
Sure.
slide that I skipped by. If I can get back there, is that what happens is as the buyer is building their wish list, it creates this build sheet, which then gets fed into the ERP as an addendum, which then feeds the sales order, which then feeds the purchase order, which I'll talk about later. But I get excited about that stuff, so I'll turn it back to Greg.
This is just a couple customers, how they have this rolled out in person. Often we get the question of, what does this look like in a design center? How are people making the selections? And there's all kinds of different ways to do this, right? You'll see some people have where it says, try me, and interactive touch screen. So prospect can walk into a sales center and they can go ahead and they can, click on a button. They can view a community. They can view what lots are available. They can go ahead and build up their own home. Same thing with the configurator. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see this is someone actually going through the design center and making physical selections in real time, right? We even have it so, sometimes people will pull up the design center software on their iPad. They'll walk through a physical design center. They'll make their selections there, and then when it's all completed, we can go ahead and take all of those selections and create a build sheet, have them sign off on it and push it back into our ERP, to Monica's point.
That's
So
the way it should go.
Closing out the conversation on some of these interactive tools, but InSearch particularly, there's a handful of different goals that we accomplish with tools like this. And one of them is to drive up option sales, right? By enabling customers upfront to see, to visualize, to play with, they're going to make selections along the way, right? And so we're doing it both on the front end sales side, and we're also doing it on the back end design center side. Along these lines, by adding this transparency and the ability to make these selections from home, we're drastically improving that customer experience while cutting down appointment times, right? I mean, I'd say a token InSearch customer cuts their in-person design center meeting by more than 2/3. And then on top of that, they're also increasing option sales while they're cutting down their time in the room. And so at the end of the day, the overarching premise is just, you want to give the customers the ability to visualize and to see these things and to make these selections on their terms, right? Not everyone has 8 hours to spend in the design center, and not everyone has time to go through every single option you have in person, right? But the more we can put that online, give them the ability to do their research at home, to be informed when they come to the design center meeting, to upsell themselves, the more we're seeing that turn into a better customer experience while increasing option sales and reducing appointment times.
And just a lightning round couple of questions, just
Yeah.
the time investment to develop an articulated digital design center like this. I mean, for a builder who's already doing this and in a mostly analog way, right? Maybe with Excel spreadsheets and stuff. I mean, is this a multi-month process and an entire individual dedicated to it? Or is it less than that? And for a builder who may have really not gotten into the options selling game in a significant way at all, how big of a deal is it for them in terms of the time, resources required?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as you can imagine, right, it's going to be company specific based on how many options you have and how well put together your data is.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, I've seen people spin up design centers in 6 weeks, right? And I think the ultimate perk, and Monica's going to talk to it, for customers that are using our Mark Systems database, is you've already done all of this work. It exists within the ERP, right? It's just about structuring it and putting it in a way that you want the customer to have that visibility. That said, you know, we purchased InSearch, and to this day, more than half of our customers use it as a standalone product, right? That's not integrated to any ERP. And so in that case, it's more just driven on how your structure is set up, where you have your data current day. And you can imagine we do this day in and day out, right? And so we've got recommendations, best practices, ways to have you set it up. But in the same breath, it's just you want to be comfortable with it before you put it in front of customers, right?
And I want to just add to that a little bit too, is you don't have to start out with an A+++ design center where you're offering options on every single room and things. So if you are more of a standard builder and you don't have a lot of options that you're offering now, you can still use InSearch. You just offer less because it's not built out by room for everybody. You don't have to have something in every room is what I guess I'm saying. You can just start out with the options you have in the kitchen, you know, or the bathroom or whatever. And then as you learn and as you continue to build it, you just keep adding things. That's kind of the insight on this last bullet point. There is the better, there's a lot of reporting on the back end of InSearch. And so as you learn your customers and as you kind of understand what they're looking at, you can then streamline and add to or subtract from your design center.
Gotcha.
And even your interactive floor plans too.
And just to quickly zoom out, like the lead on your website that saves the interactive floor plan goes into Lasso, right? Or if they're interacting with Lot View, that connects to InSearch and that can go to Lasso. So just want to kind of zoom out and mention that as well, that like there's ways to kind of not only capture this, but pick up right where that customer left off. They just got emotionally invested and spent all this time and got really excited. Lasso is going to help, and the sales team can pick right up and say, hey, I see that you chose this plan.
Continue their progress, right?
Yes.
Instead of like
Exactly.
taking them back to home plate, you keep them going around the bases.
Right.
All right, Monica, you got to take us home here with some sort of case study, huh?
I will. I'll get to the case study. This is just demonstrating that there's the build sheet that you built in InSearch, and it feeds right into Mark Systems. And like I said, this is where I get really excited because I mean there's so much work that goes into managing data, and when you have the disparate systems, you have to manage that data in too many different places, and there's so much room for error. And by having a connected system, it really cuts down on that because you're only touching the data really once and it's feeding its way through. And that's also why I was so excited in sharing that whole visual that looked like a big, huge spider web at the front end, because you have to have a good operating system. You have to have a good CRM and an operating system that can handle integrating or taking in the data from some of these other systems and sales tools you might be using so that you can action upon it and really make things easier for your whole entire team. So I won't spend much time on the slide because I know that we're very over, but I can talk forever about the value of an integrated system. So you can just pick up the phone and call me if you want to talk more about it. But I will tell you about a case study with Mastercraft. So Mastercraft is a builder group, has been using InSearch or ECI products for a while. So what they were running into was they really had a lack of real-time pricing. I'm sure none of these things sound familiar to you, but they didn't have real-time pricing. It was causing challenges to budget and they needed, to scale their business. Everything was siloed, marketing, sales, operations, everything was with their own data, with their own systems and things. And 60% of their buyers were coming from outside of the market. And it was a lot of inconsistency and very costly for them. So they went ahead and they purchased several of our solutions that were integrated Mark Systems, Lasso, and InSearch, and have been using it now for quite some time. And so with that, some of the impact that they've been able to see after streamlining, so Mark Systems is a completely integrated ERP. It goes basically from sales through purchasing, through construction and all of that. So now everybody's looking at the same data operationally, right? And now we're looking at the same data from the sales team and with the InSearch and the products as well. And so by streamlining and improving the operations, they were able to go from 50 to 120 homes without adding any additional staff, which is actually really cool and very impressive. They're able to now manage real-time price changes across all of their communities in minutes versus days, because they're not updating many systems. They're increasing their prospect lead conversions, and that's a lot due to Lasso because they're able to track their prospects where they are, and they're able to hold their sales and marketing teams accountable. And then with InSearch, their 3-day on-site selection with the design center team is now reduced to 3 hours. So again, because it's removing a lot of that decision-making and that bantering back and forth between the co-buyers out of the design center, and allowing them to come to some agreement before they really come into the design center. And then they're just kind of finalizing the process, which is great. So they're now selling 2.5 times more homes, and they've got a greater customer experience, and they're also saving quite a bit of money on the efficiencies that they found as well.
Yep.
So hopefully that covers it, because that was a pretty quick overview.
Are the sales and marketing components of it big contributors to the growth in the number of homes that they're building?
Yeah, I think so, because again, they're able to prospect. And so instead of having these sticky notes and having to figure out how to follow up and remembering to call people on Fridays, they have these systems now in place. And so they're feeding the pipeline much better. But then also with the whole system, they're able to build a lot more as well, because their communications are up and things.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's great. I appreciate you breezing through it. I'm sure there was a lot of other context and that folks could get that from you.
Yeah.
Contact you after.
Yeah, this real quick on this slide. So we really focused in on this whole presentation was really focused in on the sales and marketing aspect of Lasso, InSearch, and LotView, and how that fed into the operating system. But what's really cool about ECI is we have 2 other products. Build Tools is actually for custom builders and remodelers, but we have a product called Bolt, which is for trade contractors and suppliers. And hopefully we can talk about that on another call with you, John. Yeah. But what Bolt does is it's a tool for the trade contractors to get them off the whiteboards and out of their file cabinets so that they can manage their jobs more efficiently. And it's got a lot of other benefits too, but Bolt also feeds into this whole ecosystem that we've created to help create more efficiency out in the field. So not only are you getting more buyers, you're more efficient with your build, you're also more efficient with your trade contractors and saving a lot of costs and work in that area as well.
The more we can integrate the collaboration, the better we can serve the customers, and the better all of our businesses will do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So.
Very good. All right. Well, I think it's been a very meaty hour or so here walking through the topic, and some of my takeaways on the trends and strategy side of things were the importance of the location piece and telling that story in a rich way, the listings, the importance of the listings as a first stop in really optimizing the play there. In terms of the buying journey, Lauren, I think just this very easy to work with user interface, the comprehensive nature of the tracking of the leads and the ability to communicate with them in a multiplicity of ways, depending on the situation and kind of toggling that between sales and marketing and then getting the reporting out of it. That was pretty spectacular. Greg, a lot of focus on the design center functionality, and I've been a big believer in that for 25 years.
Yes.
And I do think the new frontier is how do we use that on front end to get sales?
Yeah.
And we still have a lot of opportunity to optimize even its traditional use cases, and the tool sets just keep getting better and better. So, and it was cool to see that with a lot of your work that you're doing with clients in the project areas. And then Monica, you bottom lined it with this case study where it's, if you can do 2.5 times the homes that you were doing and the systems are contributing to that, both in terms of getting the customers and being able to build the homes even more profitably, well, that's the golden ring, right? So
Absolutely.
very much appreciated the session. Let's put some information up for folks on contacting y'all if they want to go deeper.
Here we go. Yep.
Everybody looks good. Everybody's got an email address and a phone number, and they aim to please. And next slide, please, Monica. Thank you. So thank you for viewing. ECI will be one of our top sponsors at the Housing Transformation Summit coming up in Phoenix in November. If you are interested in attending that event, you've got the guy to contact there. It's bob@aeventures.com. And I want to thank ECI for putting all this information together, spending so much time working on it. And obviously, they are a solution supplier to be contacted. And so make sure you do that work. So that's all for this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.